Lady Gaga really embodies the Aries paradox, a trailblazer, all raw courage and volcanic drive, whose inner fire wins world-changing battles, yet quietly bricks her into a fortress of solitude. You've seen the memes, honestly. Aries would rather go down with the ship than text, "I need help." So why does the zodiac's most powerful sign so often end up standing completely alone? We're counting down the 14 hidden reasons behind this tragic isolation, each unlocking a deeper layer of their psychological code. These insights come directly from legendary seer Barbara Vanga, who first mapped how, for an Aries, that fire becomes both their power and their prison. Let's get one thing clear. This paradox is not a simple case of pride. It's a complex psychological architecture under the Aries personality, and my purpose here, as a psychological astrologer, is to help you dismantle it, piece by piece, so you can see how it works. The legendary seer Barbara Vanga didn't just notice this pattern, she mapped its source code. She uncovered 14 hidden reasons behind this tragic isolation, and we're going to walk through every single one in a countdown. That structure matters, because each reason stacks on top of the last, leading us down to the heart of the Aries paradox. Honestly, I can promise you this, the number one reason is not what you think. When you master these insights, it will permanently change how you see yourself, or the powerful Aries in your life that you cannot figure out yet. Before we kick off the countdown with reason number 14, I want to know who I'm talking to. Tell me in the comments, are you an Aries, or is there an Aries you're trying to decode? You know, I make a point to read everyone because this shared data helps all of us see the patterns clearly. Now let's get to work. Our journey starts with the most foundational cause, number 14. This is the origin point of their relentless self-reliance, the divine fire that forges their legendary strength, yet quietly builds the walls of their loneliest prison. This divine fire is the 14th and the most foundational reason. Barbara Vanga identifies it as Aries' core programming, an innate, sacred fire that fuels their courage and ambition and convinces them they can and should handle everything themselves. But here's the paradox. That very fire doesn't just light the path, it burns the bridges that could bring help. The astrology platform Your Tango notes that this intense drive creates a state of self-imposed isolation. Aries don't just prefer independence, they see dependency as a fundamental weakness. Their energy makes them, as the experts at CoStar put it, appear unapproachable. Their fire is both their power and their prison. This leads directly into the 13th reason, the invincible aura. Aries projects an armor of confidence so thick, so polished, that people assume they're immune to failure, disappointment, or struggle. It's a brilliant defense mechanism that instantly commands respect. But as Vice magazine's analysis points out, this invincible aura can mask vulnerabilities. People don't step in or offer help because they genuinely cannot see the cracks in the armor. They don't see the moments of self-doubt or the silent exhaustion. And this isn't arrogance on Aries' part. It's a strategic projection of strength that, as a side effect, deflects almost all potential support. Now, let's drop to a tactical level with the 12th reason, impatience with aid. Aries operates at a pace that outruns help. Imagine an Aries on a team. A colleague says, "Let me look into that data for you. I'll get back to you this afternoon." For an Aries, that timeline feels glacial. Waiting for help is more painful than doing the work themselves. Their mind translates it as an unacceptable delay. So they spend their lunch break figuring it out, running the analysis, and sending the completed report before the colleague has even started. But what happens when the attack isn't quiet at all? when it's loud, aggressive, and completely stripped of diplomacy. That's no mistake. That's a declaration of war. And it brings us right to the razor's edge of trigger number 7. That declaration of war. It slams into trigger number 7, a blatant lack of diplomacy. When you start throwing harsh words, using aggressive tones, or showing outright disrespect toward a Libra, it's not just rude. It's a direct hit on the harmony they work so hard to protect. At first, they'll reach for their natural charm, trying to de-escalate, smooth the rough edges, restore balance. They'll give you space to adjust, to correct your course. But if you keep going, if you read their grace as weakness, you'll see a huge shift. The smile fades, the eyes sharpen, the diplomat steps back, and the strategist steps forward. Their response won't be some wild emotional outburst. That's not their style. Astrological research on Libra patterns shows that when they're pushed by disrespect, their reaction is measured and calculated, designed to restore equilibrium. They don't scream, they dissect. They'll use sharp, articulate honesty to hold a mirror up to your own inconsistency and unfairness, and you're the one off balance. So remember this. In Libra's world, diplomacy isn't a bonus trait. It's non-negotiable. We've looked at how they respond when someone attacks them from the outside. But what happens when you mess with their inner world? When you don't just offend them, you attack the very logic and fairness their mind is built on. Those next triggers go much, much deeper. So we've already hit the first 3 triggers: blatant injustice, being ignored, and a total lack of diplomacy. And honestly, that's just the surface layer. Those are the external attacks. The next triggers cut much deeper into the Libra psyche. Are you starting to see the pattern here? This isn't random anger. It's a calculated reaction that kicks in when their core values get violated. And that intense obsession with fairness and balance is exactly why rushing them into a decision isn't just annoying. It lands like a direct attack on their process. That is trigger number 6. Let me be very clear. Trying to force a Libra into a snap decision, that's psychological warfare. They're not being flaky or indecisive. They're being deliberate. Inside their head, those internal scales are working overtime, carefully weighing every angle, every possible outcome, not just for themselves, but for everyone orbiting the situation. Their mission is simple: land on the most equitable result possible. So when you rush them, you're not just being impatient. You're actively attacking that process. On the surface, they might give you that polite, practiced smile and say, "I just need a moment." But inside, there's a storm of frustration building. Those follow-up questions they suddenly start asking, the pauses, the so-called stalling, that's not weakness. That is a strategic defense system kicking in. They're protecting the integrity of the decision from your pressure. To a Libra, being rushed feels like manipulation, like an assault on their core identity as the fair, balanced arbiter in the room. It's someone trying to slam down a verdict before all the evidence has even been laid out. And yeah, pressuring them creates chaos inside, but it's chaos they can survive. There is one act, though, that doesn't just stir the storm. It cracks the ground they stand on, an act so jarring that for a Libra, there is almost no coming back. That's the devastating power of trigger number 5. That act is the betrayal of trust. Coming in at number 5, honestly, this isn't just about hurt feelings. For a Libra, trust is sacred. It's that invisible contract that underpins their core values of justice and fairness. Betray that trust, and you've violated the laws of their relational universe. Now here's the critical distinction. They will not react impulsively. While other signs might explode in a fiery rage, a Libra retreats. They pull back to process the wound, to quietly analyze the breach of contract with cold, hard logic. Their internal scales aren't broken. They're recalibrating around this new, damning piece of evidence. In their mind, court is now in session. They are sitting in judgment, and once that verdict is delivered, the response is executed with chilling precision and finality. It's not a screaming match. It's the silent, impenetrable boundary that goes up overnight. It's the calm, clear-eyed confrontation where they dissect your transgression with the dispassion of a lawyer. And in many cases, it becomes the decisive and permanent act of cutting you out of their life completely. Make no mistake, they will never forget it. A betrayal permanently alters their perception of you. You are no longer a partner in balance. You're a data point of injustice, a proven risk to their world. And they do not take that risk twice. So while betrayal shatters their emotional world, the next trigger attacks their sanity through a completely different vector, their physical space. And for a Libra, that kind of invasive chaos is, let's be real, an act of aggression they simply will not tolerate. Number 4 on our countdown is basically an attack on a Libra's sanity, disorder, and chaos. Libras thrive in environments of harmony, balance, and order. This isn't about being a neat freak. It's a non-negotiable for their mental stability. To really feel it, imagine trying to solve a complex problem while loud screeching music is blasting straight into your ears. For a Libra, a chaotic, disorganized environment is that screeching noise. It's an active, almost aggressive interruption that scrambles their ability to think clearly and stay emotionally balanced. When their patience finally wears down from constant mess or disorganization, they don't explode in some wild emotional outburst. They launch a strategy. Libras will take decisive, calculated action to restore order. That might look like methodically cleaning and organizing the space, laying down firm rules for how it's used, or, if nothing changes, completely removing themselves from the source of the chaos. For them, that isn't dramatic. It's a necessary act of self-preservation. So now you know you're not just tidying up. For a Libra, you're protecting their physical and mental space. And we're about to enter the top 3. Hear this clearly. These next triggers are not casual annoyances. They are direct, fundamental assaults on a Libra's soul. And now we step into the top 3. These triggers are the ones that almost guarantee you'll see a side of Libra you didn't even know existed. If what you've heard so far has surprised you, stay with me. The next ones cut even deeper. The first of these soul-level attacks is purely verbal, the one kind of criticism that can make a Libra see red. Let's face trigger number 3, the third most powerful way to trigger a Libra. It's not an attack on what they did. It's an attack on who they are. Baseless criticism. Honestly, for a Libra, feedback isn't personal. It's judicial. They run every comment through their internal scales of fairness and logic. To them, every critique is a mini court case. So when you throw out an unfair, shallow, or totally fact-free criticism, you're not just voicing a different opinion. In their mind, you're handing down a flawed judgment. It feels like an act of intellectual injustice. Let's be clear. This is not about them being thin-skinned. It's about their core integrity being dragged into question. You're not just saying, I disagree. You're implying that their entire framework for judgment is defective, which lands as a direct threat to their identity. And while their diplomatic patience is vast, it's not endless. Repeated baseless attacks drain those reserves fast. The offer of help, while kind, is made completely redundant by Aries' sheer velocity. Their energy moves so fast that support can't catch up. So we've now dissected the first layer of their defenses, the fire of self-reliance, the armor of invincibility, and the sheer speed that outruns assistance. Seen together, you can feel how hard it is to reach them, right? But understanding this external armor is only the first step. If you don't grasp the warrior's code that operates inside their mind, that armor will slam shut in your face the moment you try to get close. And it's those internal rules of engagement, the private battle ethics of Aries, that we're going to expose next. So what exactly is this warrior's code running inside their mind? The first rule, and our 11th reason why nobody helps Aries, is what legendary seer Barbara Vanga identified as their battlefield pride. To an Aries, life isn't just life. It's a series of personal tests. Every challenge is a battlefield. Every obstacle an audition for their own strength and courage. They don't just want to win. They need the victory to be earned on their terms, by their hands. And this is where their sense of honor quietly turns into a cage. Cosmopolitan UK, I think, put it perfectly. For an Aries, accepting help can feel like a concession of weakness. In their inner logic, it isn't support. It's like cheating on the final exam. The achievement suddenly feels contaminated. It taints the purity of the win. So when you see an Aries struggling and you step back, thinking you're just respecting their space, you are. You're actually respecting their need to fight alone, even if it means they fall alone. They would rather face defeat on their own 2 feet than claim a victory that feels unearned. This rigid code of honor becomes the first wall, a silent barrier that makes offering help feel less like kindness and more like intrusion. This brings us to the 10th reason, the fearless mask. If life is a battlefield, an Aries believes they must be a fearless warrior. No cracks, no hesitation, just forward. But here's the secret. They are masters of illusion. Barbara Vanga noted their incredible ability to hide fear behind a display of courage. And we're not talking about a simple brave face. This is a full-blown theatrical production. They are the star, the director, and the producer of a one-person show titled Unbreakable. The performance is stunning. It inspires awe. It draws admiration. It convinces everyone in the audience, friends, family, colleagues, that the person on stage is genuinely fearless. But the performer, they're trapped by their own act. Beneath that mask, they feel the same fear and uncertainty as anyone else. They just manage it silently, channeling it into more action, more movement, more determination. You know that Aries who seems to get braver the more things fall apart? That's the mask tightening. Over time, the mask becomes so convincing that offering them help seems almost absurd. It's like offering a life raft to a battleship. And for them to ask for help themselves, that would mean breaking character, stopping the show, and admitting that the entire performance was a carefully constructed lie. That's a price their pride refuses to pay. Now what happens when you get too close and catch a crack in that mask? That leads us to our 9th reason, their explosive reactions. An Aries' temper is legendary, but it's rarely random. According to Vanga's insights, it's a triggered response. When help is offered in a way that feels patronizing, implies they're incapable, or drips with pity, it hits the very foundation of their identity, their strength and independence. The result? An emotional explosion. As the Hindustan Times notes, their fiery temperament can push people away. And it does. But you have to see this strategically. This isn't just random drama. This is a defense mechanism. Every trigger, from watching blatant injustice play out in front of them to feeling the sting of a broken promise, is not some random emotional explosion. It's a final, decisive act of rebalancing the scales. These moments aren't a bunch of separate rules. They're all violations of Libra's core operating system. A direct attack on fairness, a flagrant disregard for respect, or a deliberate disruption of harmony. Understanding this code isn't about tiptoeing around them. It's about strategy. It's about finally giving the Libras in your life the same basic respect and integrity they so freely offer the world. Honestly, their fierce reaction isn't them losing it. It's them standing guard over that principle. And remember this, Libras are rarely shaken.